there comes a time for every gladiator to grow up. Today, this gladiator is growing up. It's going to have a combination of 3/4 inch spacer in an EVO 2.5 inch lift, which is actually closer to a 3.5 inch lift. On the front, it's going to have a 1 inch spacer and also the EVO lift. It's going to get a couple of things that are going to take a little time. I imagine I'm going to have about 8 hours of work under the Jeep today, doing it myself. I've done lift kits by myself many times. It's not always that fun. Don't have a lift, don't have power tools. It's all hand tools, but I've done this dozens of times. So kind of maybe make a video here and there as I go along and show you what I do and show you how it's coming along as I stop and take a break. It's supposed to get over 100 here within a couple of days, and then it's going to stay that way for like 3 weeks. I don't have an air-conditioned garage, but it did get into 65 last night. So right now it's probably 70 degrees in here, and I'm just thinking I want to get this done. I may as well get started on it when the weather's decent, and so here I go. So here I got things laid out, kind of tell you what I'm putting on. This is for the rear. I got the Fox Performance Series. This is for a 3.5 to 4 inch lift. With the spacer I have, and this lift actually coming in more like 3.5 inches or something like that, I think this is better than actually running the shocks that are for a 2.5 inch lift, because everyone I've read says the EVO comes in higher than that. And you might say, well, let's see, 2.5, if that's actually 3.5 and 3/4, you're actually over 4 inches. That's true, except for I have a topper, I have a winch on the front, I have a lot of extra heavy parts on the Jeep, and it'll probably be weighed down, so I'll be surprised. I did take measurements all around the entire Jeep, and we'll go over those when I'm done so we can see how much we actually were raised. And I measured from about 20 different spots, and then we'll measure all those spots and see across the board where the Jeep was after it was lifted. So got those shocks. EVO was out of their rear track bar, adjustable track bars, when I ordered the lift, so I went ahead and ordered without it. And then I ordered this. This is a rock crawler one with the Johnny joint type, crawler joint type on there, and I greased those up. I'm hoping that it does real well. It's not specifically for this lift, but on the other hand, I looked at the EVO one and it's just a straight bar with ends on it too. So I figured as long as the measurement's the same between the two, that's good. These are the Rusty's skid plates. I'll be putting those on today. Those go on the leading of the control arms on the bottom. I figured since I'm going to have all the stuff loosened up, and before I retorque it and everything, since it's all loose, when I put the Jeep down on the ground, I'm going to have everything not up to torque. And that's what you should do. You shouldn't torque it while it's in the air. And then from there, I'll get everything torqued down and then take it in for an alignment. These are the bump spacers they give you for the rear. These are the extended links for the rear that they give you. And then on the EVO, there's a spring and there's a number you have to pay attention, because one is for one side and one is for the other. And that's because of the gas tank, and the Gladiators are heavier on one side than the other, and so there's a little extra bounce on one side to push them up. And the other thing I got here is the EVO kit comes with brake lines, so we'll be doing brake lines today too, and just get that all done. So and there's a spacer. That's for the carrier bearing, for the rear drive shaft. That's a spacer to bring the drive shaft down just about an inch, so that should help a little bit to keep the angles closer to stock on the rear drive shaft. Well, if you can't tell, it's not 70 in my garage anymore. It's up to 80, but I got the rear springs in. I want to show you a couple of things that I did. Maybe it'll help you when you go to do this, if you decide to do this on your own with hand tools like I do. So first off, there's an indexing ring right up here. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a little stem sticking out and a hole that it has to go into, and then the spring has to notch into it. The difficulty is getting that to stay up there while you put the spring in. I just use Gorilla Tape. Wrap a couple of Gorilla Tapes on each side of it, put a little glue on the back, stuck the isolator on the top, then made sure that when I got the spring positioned, it was close to being right. And I pushed it up, pried it in with a bar. I used this little scissor jack like this to help spread. Put tension on here. I ran this up into here and pushed down on the axle to fit the spring in. Because I've done this a couple of times, you always have to have something, it seems like, when you're going to a lift. Even with everything disconnected, the only way, you're gonna have to put some tension on it to push the new spring in. So that's what it is. There's a 3/4 inch spacer, the 2.5 inch EVO plus ride springs. I'm gonna go ahead and put bump stops back on, and then we'll work on the track bar and put the new tires on the back and go to the front. All right, here we are with the EVO kit.
Here you can see the new brake lines, the spring spacers, the bump stop spacers, the springs, the shocks are on, and we got the sway bar links are on there. They look plenty long enough for the lift, and also you'll see the tires in the blocks that I put on there for extra safety.
All right, got to show you with the wheels on. There they are. These are the method with the bead lock technology. You might wonder about the garage. It's 82.5 inches to the top here, and my garage door is 84, plus I have a 1/2 inch of trim if I had to. So once I lift the front, we'll see, but right now it's looking like it'll clear by about 1.5 inches going out the garage door. Wow, changes the look of the Jeep. It's a little bit of a stink bug right now, but we'll get some pictures here when we get done with the whole thing. I haven't been looking forward to the front. So I know the front is going to be a little harder than the back, so, and it's still hot. It's the afternoon. And I don't want to stop because otherwise if something goes wrong, I'll be here till 11 o'clock at night instead of getting it done this evening. So I'd rather just keep working. Well, here we are, working on the front. Got the axle pretty much lowered down. You take off the sway bar links. Be sure all these wires have enough room that nothing's tight. Nothing's too tight. Loosen it all. I'm replacing the factory coil isolators with these ones from Metal Cloak. They're supposed to be a little better at isolating and holding the spring in place. I know some people have said their springs have folded and twisted, so I'm going to go ahead and put those on as preventative. Another thing, just when you're putting your spacers on, that's a good way to keep them inside the coil because you can't get them in there afterwards. Don't put them on before because you won't get the coil on. You got to get the coil up in there, but this has to be in the center. So just use a zip tie on it and zip tie it in there, and then clip it when you're ready to install it. That's a little trick. I'll get to work on this portion. Again, here's the duct tape strip on the front one. Put the isolators up in there and then just wrap a little duct tape on there. It'll wash out of there. Just need a little piece on there. Hold it in place so those isolators won't keep falling down and getting out of sync while you're trying to put them in. All right, this is the hard part, especially when you're doing it all alone by hand, but this is what I've done in the past. We'll see if it works here. So you have to get a little twist on it to get that spring to go on there. So I just push on the spring and then put a motorcycle strap on there and pull it tight while I'm kind of putting my weight on it, and then bring it over here. It's really not all that much tension. You push that button and it'll pop off, but as you can see, it gains you about 1 inch for getting it up over that pad and up on there. So we'll see if we can get it up on there. Might have to put a little more weight on it, but can't do too much more or the hooks will slip around. But it works real good for real light coil compression. Well, I had to take a break, eat, do all that, so I stopped last night. I'm going to start it up again today. I did get the tires on, front tires are on, and got all the springs in, and rocks are hard if I tried to capture them before they get past the mount, and I missed one. On this side, what did I do? Oh, Rancho steering reinforcement bracket put in, and there you get a better view of the Terraflex link. I use that instead of the EVO links, which are, you know, permanent links that you put in. So today I have to bleed brakes because I put in all new brake lines with the EVO kit. When I've read online, these are easiest to put in one at a time with the axle and tires on. So we're going to do that and get those on. And I still have the Rusty's skid plates to install, but I'm going to have to loosen the lower control arms to do that. And I may as well, since I'm going to have to loosen the front control arms, I'm going to take it and just shake it around a little bit, let it settle a little bit, and I'll retighten everything. So this is what I use to bleed brakes. Basically, you have a hose you hook to the bleeder valve, you fill this to about here, and you just have somebody pump the brakes while you watch it, monitor it until there's no more bubbles coming. And kind of have to monitor the top too to be sure it doesn't run out of fluid. You don't want your reservoir running empty. And then just keep going. And usually the last one takes the longest. It'll have the most air bubbles in it as you move it around through the system, and then you're done. You tighten everything up. You tighten the valve as soon as there's no more bubbles coming. And then you do that on each one. We're done already. I'll let you take a look at those. Those are the Rusty's skids, and they protect the control arms, and that's the mounting bolt for the control arm, so you can't put them on if you can't get those off. Then it has two other bolts through there that hold it on, protect the skids. On the front, I'm about ready to put the first bracket on. You do have to, oh, by the way, a lot of people don't know this. You can do this. You might have to do some ratcheting and stuff to move stuff around, but you can change out these brackets in these arms while your tires are attached. Just do one side at a time, and that'll be great. I did get to take the Gladiator for a ride when I went to buy that little torque wireless ratchet drive, and it's been working great. But I'm excited to see what the steering will be like after I put this bracket on. Years ago, I had a Rancho lift kit I got super cheap, brand new on some special they had, and I had the drop-down brackets on the JK. And then as I went on, I got rid of the drop-down brackets and went with adjustable arms and stuff. But to be honest with you, I never gained the steering back or the feel back of stock that I had with the brackets. So the Gladiator sitting as high as it is, I'm going to risk scraping those a little bit, I think, and just go that way and see how they work. You know, if I have to change on that, I will. But for now, and I think if it works good, I'll just keep doing that for a long time. I've learned that scraping isn't the worst thing in the world, as long as you don't actually tear it off. So, yeah. The other Jeep, the skid plates are really beat up. And this one's nice and pretty going down here. I was noticing there's only a couple of scratches here and there. But this hasn't been my off-road vehicle. I've been using the JK for the off-road vehicle. I sold the JK. That's where I got the money for all these parts. And, well, half the money. Half of it I set aside. Half of it I decided I'd spend. I sold the 07 JK for $17,500. So I figure if I put 9 into this and be able to do a lot of good trails, that's worth it to me. My wife loves the Gladiator. She absolutely thinks this is the best vehicle ever made. So it was time to switch over from the JK to this. So, all right, well, I'll get back to work and I'll show you the finished product here in a little bit. Alright, by the way, this is a good way to eliminate neck fatigue when you're always working on the ground. So I'm just using this to hold in. This will slide right up into here, and there's crush sleeves to go in there, and the screwdriver just enables me to have one pivot point while I work on the other one. So I just wanted to show you another thing. Since the axle's loose, you have to move this hole. You just move the tire and it moves this back and forth in the hole. So you move it that way, move it this way, just reach up, tug on the tire a little bit, and you can line up the holes just perfect that way. Alright, so braces are all on. You can see they mount to the frame, and the new arm control mounts are here. Clearance wise, it's still above cross member. That's about even with the front one, so you're gonna scrape there anyway, so you'll just drag along here, I guess. But that's it. Everything I can do before I have it aligned. I adjusted the track bars as best I could, and we should be good to go. I'll give you a walk around here in a second.